Hello, I'm going to explain a couple of technicalities about string formatting. So string formatting is something that you use when you want to combine the output of a fixed string but include some variables that you have in your code and the contents of which might change from case to case. So what we do in such a case is that we use the string formatting procedure, and it consists of first specify a string as a template using placeholders. Second, apply the format method to that template. And third, fill in particular values of variables which you would like to use in specific cases. So let's just do that. Let's start by defining a template. So my template is something like, say, the user is, and then instead of putting the user's name specifically, I put the placeholder, and these are curly brackets. So if I have this, I need to then apply the formatting method, which looks something like template.format. This is the formatting method applied to template. And in round parentheses, I need to fill in the variable that I would like to have in a specific case. So what's the name of the user in this case? Let's just give it a name. Let's define something. Say the name is, and it's just a string as well. The name is Casey. So if that is the specific name that I would like to have, that I would like to see in that string, I can then specify the name, which is the variable name. And if I run that code, it will now give me back a string called the user is Casey. You can see the single quotes. The name was put in the right place, and of course that is the place where the curly brackets were as a placeholder in the first place. So now we have that. We can make things slightly more complicated. If I just copy and paste that code and say, yes, we have now the name, but we would like to make it a little bit of a more informative thing. And is that a he or she? I don't know. He or she lives in a certain town. And again, the town might vary from case to case. So we put in another pair of curly brackets. And of course, if that is now something different from the name, which it is, we can now specify, town is equal to, take an example, London. And then we want to say where Casey also lives. And we have to also specify now that second pair of curly brackets, the second placeholder. And there goes a second variable, and it's called town. If we execute the code, it will now be the user's Casey, and she lives in London. So that's about how things work. I would like to alert you to something that is in general useful to know when dealing with strings. Sometimes you would like to have special characters within a string that have a certain name for Python. So it's a difficulty that arises here. For example, if instead of saying the user is, if we want to say the user's name is. You can see immediately when I put the user's name with the apostrophe s, the code highlighting changes from red to black. And the fact that is now in green tells us this is now a logical instruction. This is asking whether that thing is true. But this is not what we want. What we want to have is just the whole thing within this outer single quotes to be a long string. So to disambiguate the apostrophe in this place, we use the backslash. So backslash apostrophe means please use this apostrophe as a character and not an instruction to end the string. And with this small modification, this already works. The user's name with apostrophe S is now Casey, and she lives in London. And there's a couple more instances of escape characters, and the textbook will provide you with the full list if you look at a certain table in there. And finally, we can also do something else. If we look at this kind of code, you can see that curly brackets is nice as a placeholder, but it's empty. You don't really know what goes where. And if that's a more complex string, this can be quite annoying. So what we can do instead of leaving them empty, we can just put a name for the placeholder. So if that's Casey's name, so we can call it name, and instead of just leaving it empty here, we can put in town. And then these placeholders have names, and we can refer to them by that name. So we can then specify that the keyword, this is now a keyword, keyword name is equal to that special name, which is the variable, and the keyword town is equal to that special town. And to just make sure that this is just a convention, if they are called differently, of course, you have to call the variables properly. And in the case of name would be replaced by her name, and town would be replaced by her town, and everything is still fine. So it's the same as before, but now disambiguating, we have just used the name keyword in order to refer to it, which gives us a further advantage that the order in which those keywords are used in the formatting method is now not important anymore. So you can put them in any order, because of course town will refer to the keyword town, wherever that's located in that original string. If you want to specifically know how that works, look at the documentation, putting your cursor on format and then pressing Shift and Tab. You can see the documentation, which tells you that you can have as many empty arguments or as many keyword arguments as you want, and you will get a string in return in each case. So for our second part now, we're going to look how to use format within items that you extract from a dictionary. So for this purpose, I just, instead of typing a dictionary, I just copy and paste one. And my dictionary is this. Here's a dictionary that has as keys the names of 3 types of viruses, and the corresponding values are diseases associated with that virus. So we have learned that if we want to use string formatting, we have to create a template. So let's create a template, and let's say the template is the virus. And then first placeholder, and then is, or make it shorter, make causes, and then the disease, curly brackets are supposed to contain the disease, and we can make a full stop because this is a complete sentence. So that's our template, and of course we want to extract from that dictionary the names of the viruses and the corresponding diseases. So how do we do that? We need to iterate through that dictionary. For key in dictionary, we use the keys of dictionaries to iterate through the dictionary. It's called myDict. But in this case, we can see 2 placeholders. The first is the keys and the second is the values. How do we get both out of a dictionary? There's a way to do that, and that is to use the method items. So if we use items, and that needs to be followed by round parentheses, and the syntax is complete when we add the colon. However, getting the keys and the values from for each of these lines in the dictionary, we now need to call that also something, and we call the keys key, we call the values value. And then, of course, now we can put in our code with indentation. So what that will give us, it will go through the dictionary line by line, give us a key one after the other and the corresponding value at the same time. So it means we can now use our trick, which was template format. If we use autocomplete, we can see there's two types of formatting. There's simple format and there's format map, but we're not needing that. We just need the simple format. And what we can do here is now we need to specify the placeholders as we have done before with name and town. So what is the things that we want to fill in? First of all, it's the keys, the name of the virus, and then we want to have the value, which is the corresponding disease. Now, if we execute that code, it doesn't give us anything. So of course, if you want to see that, we just put the print function around it and then execute the code, and then we can see what we wanted. We can have all of the information in that dictionary displayed on the screen. The virus HIV causes AIDS, and so on for the second and third item. If you like, you can also use that. You can also fill in keywords, and if we just do the exercise, I'm just using the same code. I just fill in if the keyword here is virus and the second keyword is disease, then we need to specify them, and we need to say the virus keyword is the key currently in every iteration of the loop, and the disease is the value that we have. So that doesn't change anything, it's just more legible. It just shows that the keyword virus is the key and the keyword disease is the value. Right, and finally I'll show you somewhat of a short notation. If what we can do all this formatting without even specifying a template. And the way to do is if I just copy this line here for going through the loop, and I say for key value in my dict items, then indent, what we can use the print function on that string, which is the template. And I just copy the template from above. I don't need the quotes because they're already there. So we can put in that template, but now because it contains placeholders and we need to specify what the placeholders are, we need to say this is a string that needs formatting. So in order to do formatting before the first quote, you put the letter F. And that means this is a string to be formatted. And what do we want? We want the characters the virus, and then we want to have that name of that virus, but the name is not called virus, the name is called key, right? So we can put in the key, so in each iteration of the loop it will put in the right name of the virus in this place. And similarly, in order to have this back here, to have the disease there, it's called value, so we need to put in the value each time we go through the dictionary. And if we now execute this code, we can see the outcome is as before. You can see this shorthand notation, no template creation, no dot format or anything, just putting that character F there tells it to use the formatting and to fill in the right things in the right place.